morning and thank you for joining us for the first session of National Careers Week 2021 as part of the Meet Your Future work shadowing campaign. Meet Your Future was launched in April 2019 as a way to enable young people to have conversations with employers whilst experiencing different workplaces firsthand. Over the past 12 months, we've been speaking with young people from all 10 boroughs across Greater Manchester to find out about how you feel you could be best supported through the pandemic, your return to school and then into your future. We've been listening and we've learned a lot about how young people feel. We've developed a suite of information, resources and services that are available to you, and this can be found at gmax.co.uk. I'll pop a link in the Q&A box so you have it. On GMAX, you can also speak to a member of the Bridge GM team live if you do have any questions about apprenticeships or career information. We've also adapted the Meet Your Future work shadowing campaign to better fit what you've been telling us, and over the next 5 days you'll be able to join sessions and chat with Greater Manchester and national employers about their opportunities. You'll also hear from some noticeable people from Greater Manchester about their journey and how they ended up where they are today. Hopefully this week will inform you, inspire you and show you why you should feel hopeful and optimistic about your futures in Greater Manchester. We will leave the Q&A box open throughout this session and we'll select some questions at the end. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker for National Careers Week 2021, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham.
Thanks, Jane. Good morning, everybody. It's fantastic to be with you at the start of National Careers Week here in Greater Manchester. You're going to hear about loads of exciting things this week, and I think I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own journey how I got to where I got to where I am, because it might look as though it was all been easy, but I can assure you it's not been, and maybe some of the things I've got to say might help you a little bit along your journey as well. So, are you going to ask me some questions, Jane?
Yeah, so I suppose as a starting point would be how you started your career leaving school, and where you found yourself at the age of 18.
Yeah, so I didn't expect at all that I would go into politics, if I'm honest, to start off with. I know you might look at somebody like me and think that my mum and dad must have been MPs or councillors or something, but they weren't. They had no connection with politics. And when I did my work experience at school, when I was in year 10, I went to Thomas Cook, the travel agents in St Helens, and I worked behind the counter there for 2 weeks. So I wasn't, if you like, on a career path towards politics at all. And if somebody had said to me at age 14, oh, you might be a member of parliament one day, or even the mayor of Greater Manchester, I'd have been like, what? Me? So I just mention that because, you know, you won't know yet fully where life is going to take you. And I think the one thing I would want to get over to you is don't sell yourselves short. You know, we've got a tendency in the north, I think, to do ourselves down a little bit and kind of say, oh, I can't do that. But the truth is you can do that, and it needs you to believe in yourself a bit. So as my life went on, I got more, I suppose, interested in politics because some of the things that were happening. A big thing that happened in my life was something called Hillsborough, when people died at a football match, and a lot of my friends were at that match. And then the government of the day tried to blame the supporters, the football supporters, and that kind of made me feel that the world wasn't fair, wasn't right, the way things were done, the way the North was treated, people from the North were treated. So I kind of started to move towards politics, I guess, in my early 20s. And then ultimately, I've got to where I've got to. But it wasn't a straightforward journey. When I left university, because I did go to university, I wanted to work as a journalist first and foremost, and I must have written, I don't know, 500 letters to the BBC and Manchester Evening News and everybody, and I got nothing back, and that was a really tough time. So I can't imagine how tough this has been for all of you, but you know, I can remember a bit what it was like to sort of feel like you had, no sort of opportunity ahead of you. But eventually I got a job as an unpaid reporter on the Middleton Guardian, and that was my very first job. And you know what? I look back on it and think, that was a brilliant place to start, actually, because it taught me things from a sort of very grassroots level. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot more I could say, Jane, but my own journey to where I am today has not been straightforward at all. And I would say to every young person, don't worry, don't stress about it at the moment, because you've obviously been through a really tough time with everything that's been happening. Things will open up later this year and opportunities will open up for you. And it isn't going to be the case that the thing you're going to end up doing is necessarily going to be the first thing that you do. Just open your mind to sort of the ideas, the opportunities that are out there, and eventually you'll find the thing that's right for you.
I mean, that's brilliant. It showcases that careers aren't linear and you're not on one path from when you leave school all the way to retirement. So 2 questions. What was your initial career choice? Because someone has just popped it in the chat. And what prompted you to change lanes, I suppose? What was it that was like, okay, this is where I am now, but I'm going to shift into politics?
Well, first off, it was languages. So I wanted to be a holiday courier. I was quite good at Spanish when I was at school. And I thought, well, I quite like to work in the holiday industry, using Spanish abroad, looking after people when they're on holidays. People might know when you go abroad, as people who are working around the holiday resorts. But my school didn't, they didn't know anybody who did that, so they just thought working in Thomas Cook's in St Helens would be the closest that they could get me to that. I suppose it was useful in that it taught me that I didn't want to spend my whole life working in a shop in St Helens. So all experience is valuable, and that was valuable for that reason. And then when I got to university, I guess I was getting more interested. I actually ended up doing English at university, and I got more interested in writing, journalism. I wanted to be a sports reporter, actually. And I used to write football reports on university football matches in the university paper. And then when I left, I really I thought, oh yeah, I'd love to be a sports reporter. Hence me writing all of those letters. And it was the Middleton Guardian in the end that answered my call, but they didn't pay me. And so I understand how it's really tough for people starting out. I think it's got even harder for your generation than it was for ours. But still, at that point, I was still thinking I want to be a journalist. And it was when some of those things happened in my life, those things that I kind of thought weren't right or fair, that I mentioned, that I was thinking, well, I'd rather change the way this country works. It doesn't work right for us. It doesn't work right for the north of England in terms of the way we're treated. And that took me then towards politics. And it took me a long time, Jane, to find my first job in politics. But it, in the end, was a stroke of luck. I was working with somebody at a magazine where I worked in London, and their stepmom was an MP, and she said to me, why don't you apply for a job with her? And I did, and it's one of those things in life where something happens and you couldn't have predicted it, but you've got to be ready, obviously, to see an opportunity. And I would say that to everyone tuning in this morning, doors will open for you that you can't imagine now. You can't kind of see how that might happen, but they will. I promise you, they will. And it's kind of knowing when those opportunities arise, and going for it and being confident and going for it. And, I look back at that moment because it completely changed my life. That was the moment I got into the world of politics, from being somebody who had no reason to go into it, really. Nobody was making any special efforts to get me involved. So it was lucky, but everyone in their career will find something like that where they've just got to grab the opportunity that lands in front of them.
That's amazing. Thank you. And jumping forward to today, I know that the schools are back next week, and the young people and teachers that we have watching this morning will feel possibly quite anxious about the return to school next week, and what the rest of this academic year holds. What would you say to possibly reassure them and show that we're here, we're doing things to support them, and we're working on behalf of young people and teachers across Greater Manchester?
It's a really good question, Jane, because I think you've caught exactly how people are feeling this Monday morning. Definitely a bit anxious. And I say this because I know, because I've got a daughter in year 11, so I know the ups and downs that she's had really over the last few weeks particularly. I think these first 2 months of 2021 have been really tough, haven't they? January and February have been really hard on teenagers particularly. So I guess people are feeling a bit anxious about what the year holds, but you know, look outside, you can see the sun shining, and maybe I think we're all beginning to feel now that this year is going to be quite a lot better than last year. And I do think the world's going to wake up for young people, and there's going to be loads of things going on. When it comes back, it's going to come back quite strong, I think, and I think there'll be so many amazing things happening. So I think definitely feel positive this morning. Feel good about everything. You know, obviously going back to school is a bit anxious, but your friends will be there. You've not seen them. It'd be great to get back going again. And I genuinely believe, although I think people will have sort of struggled this year and maybe lost sight of where they're going with their sort of education and possibly where they're going after they've left education. But I am confident that we can get you back on track, and that's what some of the things that Jane has mentioned are all about. So GMAX is very much about helping you get to where you want to get to. Greater Manchester Apprenticeships Careers Service, GMAX. The idea behind it, I brought it through because I wanted you to have one place to look for all work-related opportunities in Greater Manchester. I think sometimes if you're on the university application route through UCAS, it's really clear. You know where to go, you know where to find out all about the information about the universities and the grades they want and the courses. I think with GMAX, we're trying to do the same thing so that you can find out about all the apprenticeships, all the work shadowing opportunities, and make it easy for you, because it's not easy actually if you're looking for work-related opportunities. We're also keeping the hour pass in place for you. So we've confirmed that it will run at least until 2022. So anybody in year 11 now in Greater Manchester, so anyone listening to this who's in year 11, I can guarantee to you that there will be an hour pass in place for you to get come this September, so that you can go to the college that you want to go to. And the financial cost of travelling shouldn't be a barrier to you in that. And the R-Pass comes with lots of opportunities connected to it, free tickets for a whole range of different things. So you really need to check it out. And I think the R-Pass is our way of helping you get back out and about once all this is over. We've got loads of other things that will help you as well. There's Meet Your Future, which Jane mentioned before, which is you can find out more about that on GMAX. We recognise that we need to do more to help young people's mental health and well-being. So we've got some services there that we've put in place, and we're going to continue building those up. Services that just help with people's everyday mental health, easy to use services. And I've asked Diane Modal, someone who's quite well known in Greater Manchester, to look at a young person's guarantee. You know, what more can we do going forward to give you all of the support that you need? How can we get everybody digitally connected in Greater Manchester? Because if you can't afford a device or the data, how can you get on GMAX? You know, so we need to get everybody online. We want to help everybody with the cost of transport, as I was saying, with our pass. We want to support Marcus Rashford and everything he's done in making sure no one's suffering from hunger and food poverty. So we're doing loads of things actually to kind of recognise that you've got to be our priority coming out of this pandemic. Young people have got to be our priority, and we've got to focus our support on you. And here in Greater Manchester, we will definitely do that. I can promise you that. So there's loads of things to be excited about. It's a brilliant week that's been organised here. So well done to you, Jane, and all of the team at the combined authority for putting this amazing presentation on all week. Because I think there's some big Greater Manchester companies joining us as well, isn't there, throughout the week? And I think there'll be lots of interesting things for people to find out more about.
Yeah, we're very excited. Okay, so I'll go to the Q&A box, and I'll maybe just quick fire around as many as we can before we run out of time. So Jackson has asked, how has COVID affected what you do?
Oh, massively, Jackson. I mean, I've been working from home pretty much for a year. So my kids have seen more of me in the last year than they have in 20 years before this. It's just changed everything, the way we work, the issues that we're dealing with every day, you know, around the vaccination program or testing. You know, it's changed everything. Not all for the better, but there we are. We're getting through
it. How long have you had your job as mayor?
So coming up for 4 years. I was elected in May 2017. I am the first elected mayor of Greater Manchester, and I have a little matter of an election coming up in this May. So who knows? I might be a short-term mayor come May, because when every politician, you know, that's one of the, every job has what you might call a professional hazard, they call it, you know, something that's unique to that industry, that's a bit, you know, bit of a negative you've got to deal with. Mine is obviously having to stand for election every so often to carry on doing my job. So hopefully I'll get some support to carry on.
And then, is your job stressful?
oh my goodness. Yes is the answer to that. It really is. If you just look on my, I don't know if you're all on Twitter, but have a look at some of the replies I get on Twitter. You know, there's a lot of people shouting at me for lots of reasons. Everything's my fault, even things that have nothing to do with are my fault. So it's kind of hard, but I'm not asking for sympathy, because, you know, if you do a job that I do, where you're kind of stepping forward to run things and represent people, you know, you've got to take the difficult part of that, and you've got to be prepared to have people not agree with what you're saying. So I would just say to any of you, you know, who are interested in politics, you know, don't be frightened of that. You know, life's about opinions. Some people will agree with you, some people won't agree with you. This is true of any career, actually, and it's about developing a bit of resilience. I think politicians definitely have to do that. You know, you have to make yourself strong, and if something goes bad, don't just sort of get completely knocked over by it. And you know, it's not easy for me to say when, you know, you're struggling with everything that you've been struggling with, but you know, I think all careers need you to be a bit resilient and learn how to, because not everything will go right in life. You know, some things go really well and you can feel really proud and happy about that, but then other things won't go well, and then you have to learn to deal with both of those things in a way that doesn't sort of throw you off course. So a long answer to a very good question. Yes, it is stressful, but I knew that when I signed up. But there are so many amazing things, you know. When the R-Pass became a reality, when that little piece of plastic was in thousands of young people's hands, honestly, that made all my stress worthwhile, to see young people with opportunity that they didn't have before. Because I massively believe in the young people of Greater Manchester. I think the talent we've got here is just amazing, really. I think you're the most talented people in the country, because you're talented, but you're down to earth and you connect with normal people. And the problem with our part of the world at times is we haven't given people the opportunity to kind of make use of that talent. We make life too hard for people. You know, people don't have the money to get out and about and find things. And my mission is to open up Greater Manchester to you, to all of our talent, because you know you are amazing, all of you. I mean, look at our city centre now. Look at the buildings that are there. Look at the opportunities that are there. I want you all to feel that you can go there and build your future there and be a part of building Greater Manchester in the next sort of 20, 30 years. So it's dead exciting. Don't feel knocked down by this pandemic. Get up. You've got loads to sort of feel positive about. This is the best place in the world to live. We've got so much going on that's all about helping you. So I hope that's giving you a bit of a lift this Monday morning.
That's amazing, and we have run over, so we'll leave it there. But thank you to everyone that submitted questions. We'll go through, and if there's any specific ones that are asking for support, we'll reach out to you. Thank you, Andy, for joining us this morning, and we can't wait for everyone to join the sessions for the remainder of the week.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and have a great week, everyone.